That's right. I do have the man of the moment. I've got Jeff O'Neill here with me. We're down on the grid. You've got your Ferrari. I've talked to a lot of the other drivers, and they seem to also talk about your car. How ready are you for this race to put that car on the track?
Well, first, I wish it was my car. It happens to be the car I'm racing, but I'm very grateful for a wonderful guy named Tom Price who owns that car and lets me race it. So we're pretty excited about running it against the short wheelbase. Just a great, this grid's amazing, honestly. It's just a great group of guys, great speed. So we're looking for a fun race.
Absolutely, and not only a fun race, but a fun event. Everybody that I've spoken to has said, what a first-class event you have going here. All of the races, all of the cars that are stationary, that are here for fun, even the pavilion. It's really just quite an experience.
Yeah, look, we're just delighted. We had about 6,000 guests yesterday. We're just thrilled. We want to keep that up. We need more folks, more cars. Every year we'll try to make it a little bit better, but there's something for everybody here. There's rally cars, Indianapolis cars, Formula One cars, you name it, supercars, hypercars. So we're looking forward to continuing this event.
I asked Pato Award this yesterday, and I must ask you, if you could take home any of these cars here, which one would it be?
It would probably be the one I'm standing in front of right now.
Absolutely, Ferrari, #1, right?
Well, it is a spectacular car. It's fun to drive. It's just a gorgeous piece of machinery.
Absolutely. Well, lucky guy gets to take that out on the track here. We look forward to seeing you out there in this race.
Thank you so much.
All right, Johnny, we'll head back up to you for a moment. These guys are getting ready on the grid. I got to speak to the man, Jeffrey O'Neill. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, I talked to Jeffrey about this car this morning, and he absolutely concurred with that opinion that Nick Price's car is literally priceless. I don't even want to tell you what that's worth, and he raced it hard yesterday. I've still got James Alder with me. Jeffrey, obviously, I love the fact that he walks the walk and talks the talk. Talk about being involved in your event. He's not sitting in an office, counting in the accounts. He's out there racing.
Well, that's so wonderful about the participants of this sport. I mean, they really live for it. I certainly know that's how I feel. And I think it was Michael Delaney in the movie Le Mans.
Yep.
It was
Steve McQueen,
right.
Michael Delaney.
Steve McQueen played the role of Michael Delaney, and I think the famous words were, "Racing is living, and everything else is just waiting."
Just waiting. Exactly right. It's a great line, and it has gone down in the annals of racing history. In fact, you can look up, you should go online and look up Steve McQueen quotes of racing, and there's a bunch there. Steve was not only, a bit like Paul Newman, we know them as great or the world knows them as great actors. We in the racing community know them as great racers, because they really were. I remember talking to Michael Brian Redman about that film, because he was in it. It was Steve McQueen's car that they were swapping, and they were helping Steve do the filming for it, the guys that actually took part in Le Mans that year that they did the filming. And he said that Steve McQueen was really impressive in a race.
Well, what an incredible era, too, of the Ferrari P3s and the 917s. I mean, that's, of course, what Steve was driving, I believe, was a 917 Porsche, and just an incredible era in the early 70s there.
Well, let's turn our attention to what we've got coming up in the pre-grid, Group 4. What catches your eye here, James?
Well, there's a big variety of cars in here. Of course, the very sophisticated Italian cars, Jeff O'Neill driving the 250 GTO Ferrari. There's also a 250 short wheelbase. There are Alfa Romeo GTZs, as well as other Alfa Romeos. Those are twin cam, double overhead cam, 4-cylinder engine. The 250 Ferraris are V12, the 250 standing for the cubic centimeter displacement of each cylinder. So those early Ferraris, that's how the numerical number of them, or the identity, was the displacement per cylinder. So those are 3-liter V12s, 250 cc's per cylinder.
And we talked about this a moment ago, but this is an era, this sort of late 50s, early 60s, where effectively you race what you brung, so to speak.
Right.
So effectively, like you're still doing, and I love having you here, because you really do personify what it's not just that you race in period and you dress in period, you also bring your car from home and drive it, which is exactly what in the day these did. Taylor's got some more news for us. Before you answer that question, let's head down to Taylor. as she heads down and does the grid walk for us before these guys go out. Hold that thought.
That's right, I'm down here on the grid walk. Not only do we have Jeffrey O'Neill behind us, but we've got some guys right behind him that are just as fired up for racing. I've got Kevin in our 171 here. This car is unique because it looks like a street car, but he said it is built for racing. It is built for competition, and he's ready to go. We've got Bill in our number 57. Turn 11, he said he got a little bit sideways. So what they're looking for today is speed, keeping it straight, and really, really going for it. I'll tell you what, Bill and number 63 here, Robert, they were nose to nose yesterday. So these guys are definitely going to be two cars you want to look out for. It was a drag race to the finish for these guys as well. So they're going to be definitely going after it. Scott, this is the Boom Boom Special, one of my favorite cars out here. You can tell it's definitely got that antique feel. 50 years on the track. I mean, just incredible history. These guys are ready to go as well. Incredible cars down here. So many things to say about these guys, but let's get to racing. We've got these guys lining up, and I can tell you they're excited and ready for Sunday. They're going to leave nothing else on the track. Johnny.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, excellent stuff as we get a nice grid walk. But James, just go back to what you were saying. Talk about how you go racing when you're literally taking your street car, as they would have done in the late 50s, and bring it to a racetrack. What do you do? Do you change tires? Do you change suspension?
Well, I don't change tires now. I used to put on racing tires. Now I'm racing on street tires. But back in the day, you know, these were gentlemen sports car drivers. They drove the vehicle to the track in many, many cases. In fact, that was one thing that Ferrari always promoted a little bit about his 250 short wheelbase, and there's one of those out in this group. But that was a car that you could take to the grocery store and on weekends take it to the racetrack and be competitive with it, which is a really, really great era.
But take the groceries out, a little bit more lightweight.
Yes, yeah, take the groceries out. Now, there's some really interesting cars in this group. In fact, I just noticed Ranson Webster is in a Abarth Porsche Carrera. That's a very rare car. I believe there is only 6 of those. And I think Carlos Abarth ended up in jail with Mr. Porsche. Some sort of bar scuffle. They ended up in jail, and a conversation struck up between them. And Abarth said, hey, I can improve on your 356 and make a lighter, faster, better car. And there's at least one of those out here now. And I think there was only 6. There may be 2 in the group. There's number 49. That's Ranson Webster in that very, very rare car.
Yes, it is the Abarth Carrera Porsche. Abarth Carrera from 1961. Quite spot on, yeah. 1961, yeah. Ranson at the wheel. So as we see these cars come out, spot what you like, but that's a lovely story. What else have we got? We've got an Alfa Romeo. We've got a couple of Alfa Romeo GTZs.
Well, Marnix Delineus is in number 7. That's Alfa Romeo GTZ. I think Marnix's middle name is The Demon.
Oh.
So we better keep our eyes on him. There's also some, more rudimentary sports cars. MGAs. Yep. There's a TR4 out there driven by John Ganaway. Oh, this is my friend Paul Christensen, number 48, in a 356 Speedster. What a great group this really is.
Yeah, it truly is. And this is Group 4. You're listening to James Older from Reno, California, who is, of course, racing in his Jaguar here this weekend, as he always does. And he'll be driving it back when you're heading home.
I hope so. You had said Reno, California, but I know you meant Reno, Nevada. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to have a leisurely drive tomorrow. I'm going to stay here tonight and just wind down.
There you go. Wind down or wind down?
No, yeah. Hopefully with a D at the end, wind down. I've been winding down a little bit too much lately.
That's fine.
In fact, this morning I had some drama because the keys were not in the ignition. I thought I had left them in the ignition. I had to go back to the hotel, find the keys in my trousers from last night's soiree, and get back in time to make the grid. So there's sometimes a little too much drama, self-inflicted.
Yeah, you see, Fernando Alonso, if you're listening, see, you don't have these common day problems. It's easy for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me ask you about this Chevrolet Corvette from '59. I saw it yesterday, and it's a turquoise, beautifully colored. Tony Garmi at the wheel of it. We'll see it in a moment. We just saw it coming out of the pits.
That's quite a famous racing Corvette from the era. I think it was Washburn Chevrolet, and I believe that car is owned by Steve Earle. I'm sure you recognize his name.
Absolutely, and I know that Jeffrey O'Neill has thanked Steve Earle in the program over the years for helping put this together. He, of course, has been behind the scenes of many an historic event here in the United States over the years. What a sight. There's that Chevrolet.
Yes. There's the TR4 that I had mentioned.
Yes.
John Ganaway. He lives here in Carmel Valley, so he doesn't have a very long drive, but he still trailers it.
I like that 55. That's a pretty car. Then again, I like most Porsches, so that. But the 356, an S90 GT.
Well, now also Lars Mapstead is in this group.
Lars came in earlier this weekend.
Okay, and he has an XK120, but it didn't quite get finished in time for this event. He also has a racing Alfa Romeo that was raced by Al Lake. I raced against Al Lake for decades. The cars are coming through the corkscrew there, going through turn 9. And of course, right at this point, you know, like in the movie Le Mans, you can hear the heart rate start to go up.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're historic racing or you're in Formula One or IndyCar. Once that burble starts to go up and you're in the middle of it and there's 20 cars with you, if not more, and that pace car comes up and you come out of turn 11 and you look up that hill towards the start at Laguna Seca, all bets are off because these guys are racers. We're in Group 4 of our feature race. We're also joined by Jack Perkins as well. We'll get to that in a moment as we get across the line. Listen to that beautiful roar of these production GT cars from the late 50s and early 60s.
Look at this. Jeff is going on the outside of the Andretti hairpin. The 250 short wheelbase on the inside. That would have the faster line, or actually a defensive line. Not necessarily faster, but that's a defensive line. And then that looks like a no. Whoa, we got a little sideways there. Very good reaction from those drivers.
Yeah, that was the Austin-Healey 3000S that was getting out of shape there.
Well, the Porsche got out of shape.
And the Austin reacted,
but the Austin-Healey reacted. That was very, very good driving. That's a really hairy part of the course. Look at these guys, almost three abreast right there.
Well, let's bring Jack in. Jack, welcome. Are you having as much fun watching this as we are?
Absolutely.
What are you up to this weekend?
I'm here with a guy in this class, Scott Brown. I think he's in the MGA, running about 4th or 5th right now. So yep, I'm with Scott Brown right there in the MGA.
Ah, right.
With the lights on.
Tell us about the car.
That car was an old car, raced since the late 60s here in California, and was owned by another racer friend of ours, and he just sold it to my customer and friend, Scott Brown. This is the second MGA we've done for him, and we just got finished restoring it, tested it a couple weeks ago, and had a good run, and he's here today.
You know, I know there's a bunch of European cars. I've got a Jaguar driver here, but it just stuns me how many MGs and Lotuses are in America.
Absolutely. They're a big hit. They're a great, solid car, well received by people here in America and driven with bravado.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've been making a lot of parallels to Goodwood. I think the respect that Americans have, and there's a lot of people tuning in from the UK and Australia this morning, I think the respect you guys have for the European cars and how much you envy having them and owning them and collecting them.
Absolutely. And there's that big Healey. That's a real special Healey. That's a 3-liter, all aluminum body, 4-wheel disc brake. That guy really gets with it.
That's certainly a giant killer car, and so is the MGA. And of course, Scott Brown, very, very talented driver.
Very accomplished driver. Drives that car really, really well.
Yeah, this event has just gone from strength to strength. We started at Sonoma a couple of years ago. I certainly know you, James, were there, and you've seen it grow. And just to see what we've got on display here, from modern cars to obviously the absolutely period perfect, and I mean that in every sense of the word, cars. It's just going from strength to strength. Go ahead.
We go. There's the killer, the nemesis to the little cars in this class. that big Corvette with a 283 fuel injected. And Tony drives the wheels off cars like this, and he's doing a great job.
Well, I don't know where he started, but he's moved up about 6 positions, I think.
Absolutely. They go past him on the straightaways and block him through the corners, the old Corvette deal.
As the 4-cam Porsche engine climbing the hill with that Alfa Romeo, I'm sure that Porsche is lighter. Let's see how that turns out.
I wouldn't want to be in that
actually, he made the pass. Made the pass up the hill. Now going through the latter part of the corkscrew.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the drone really gives you a sense of both the speed and the drop-off of the corkscrews. We come down out of Rainy.
There we go.
Yeah, that Abarth Carrera had a good run yesterday.
Yep.
That orange front and silver body. As we look at the 163, that Alfa Romeo Giuletta Spider.
Now that MGA is coming up. Is that Scott in that number 39? Yeah, he's coming up on that Alfa right now. And I think there's going to be some good action between that, the Alfa, and the Abarth.
Absolutely.
I got to ask both of you this question. You got an MG out there, you got a Jaguar. How do you get parts to keep them, period?
It's probably a little better now than it has been through by using like eBay and putting you or connections like that around the world. It might be a little bit better to get parts than it has been in the past.
You can't get somebody to machine a part. They have to be original, right?
Right. We get original parts, and we also you end up making some of your own parts. So that's not unusual with stuff like this.
Well, the sport of vintage racing has revived so many cars.
Yeah.
I know with the XK120, there are manufacturers that make new parts.
Yep.
You know, you can just about buy anything if you can write the check.
Yep.
That's the truth.
Speaking of writing checks, those TZs are absolutely beautiful.
Fantastic.
They are fantastic cars.
Yeah. There's 3 in this group, I believe.
Yep.
And Marnix Delenius in number 7, he's been racing for about 50 years, I think. This is my 40th season. Nice. And Marnix is, I think, close to 50. It's absolutely amazing.
With that car.
Incredible.
With that car.
With that car. That's right.
That actually sums it up, doesn't it, really?
Well, it's like Michael Delaney said, racing is living, and everything else is just waiting.
There you go. Well, I posed this question to James. I know you've got a soft spot for the MG, but what else do you like out there, Jack?
I'm a big fan of that Corvette. I've had an opportunity, a great pleasure to drive another Vintage Racers 57 Corvette several times, and I love it. Lots of power, no brakes, and not much tire, so it's very exciting.
Here's another one of our 4 GTZs.
Yep. What a beautiful car.
Yeah, those are fantastic. And again, there's great skill. You look at the line these guys are taking. These are, I think, really, really good drivers.
Yep,
you know,
they're doing a great job. And we haven't talked about some of those really nice Ferraris in this group either.
Oh,
There's
gosh.
Some,
Well, why don't we? Because they were in a heck of a battle yesterday. I was talking to Jeffrey O'Neill about him. My word. He told me that everybody plays fair and nobody gets too aggressive, and I kind of read in the riot act. I said, "There's somebody out there in a Ferrari. I don't know who it is." I said, but he was getting a little bit aggressive, and he goes, "Well, who was that?" And I said, "I don't know. You have a look at the list."
Yeah, he put down some good laps yesterday.
There's John Ganaway in that TR4.
Yep.
He does a great job with that car.
He sure does.
And of course, the engine, I think, of the Triumphs were they originally a tractor design?
You bet. That's what they said.
Torque, I guess is what it's about. Yeah.
A 2-liter, 2-liter 4. Very nice car. Lots of grunt. And
and the battle was on during the 50s to basically, and this is where the war between the Europeans and the Americans really got into gear, if you will.
We got a spinner there. Oh, in a very hairy spot in the corkscrew, but he backed out of the way.
Robert Stoker at the wheel. They won't be too stoked about that, as they say in California.
He might have locked up because he spun right in the beginning of that left turn in the corkscrew, so maybe his rear's locked up and brought him right around.
Yep, you get pretty light.
Luckily, he was out of harm's way because it is blind over there, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Luckily, he was off the racing line. If he'd have spun in the middle,
Oh, it can be very, very hairy.
So we're looking at the 69, another Giuletta Spider, Tancredi d'Amour. Know anything about him?
Yeah. I don't think I do.
Tancredi d'Amour. Great name.
Great name.
Yeah, great name.
Great name for
maybe
a
it's
racer.
might be a stage name.
You got the name. You're in.
Now there's Marnix, the demon, Delenius. He's going to go on the inside. There he goes.
Nicely done.
Yesterday I was saying I wasn't keen on the rear end, but now I look at the windows and the way they've shaped it, I'm actually more keen now. It's got that fastback look, hasn't it?
Yep. Super
Just the rear
camback.
of it looks almost unfinished, but I know that's unfair. But
very Daytona coupe-ish in the rear with that camback.
Right. Yep. And some of these cars, when they were brand new, maybe they looked a little different, a little odd, a little funny, but as they age, they really come into their own.
Absolutely.
Well, and we were saying that some of the Lotuses almost look space age. Even though they're 50s iterations, back in the day they must have looked like absolute space machines.
You know it.
Beautiful display here. Group 4, I've got Jack, James, and Jonathan. So the 3 J's are taking you through. And a wonderful sight as we look at the 356A Speed Start from 1957, hooning up the hill.
I think there's a couple of GT Carrera 4-cam Porsches in this race as well, which that's quite a special.
Yep. Quite low to the ground, that one, isn't it? It's like they've got to lower the suspension at the rear. Let's hope it doesn't hit the exhaust. Depending
on, of course, the camera angle, you'll be able to see these cars lift the inside, some of the inside front and rear wheels. They hold the track so well that the car will actually lift a wheel.
Monoposto is what they call this Alfa Romeo from 57.
Okay.
Beautiful car.
That's a 1300 engine in that car. Drum brake.
Yep. Lars was in here, Lars Mapstead, who's, of course, a local here. He's driving that particular car, but he says it's just absolutely a joy to drive. And of course, you can take that flap off and put a passenger in if you want, but it's got the beautiful Alfa Romeo logo on it.
Very much.
Lars drives, he also has a 911 race car, I believe, and the XK120. Very, very experienced driver. He's really my biggest competition in the XK120s. Now, look at him wrestle the wheel there. Look at that.
Well, I said to him, how hard is it of a weekend of doing this to get back in his modern day Porsche? Because I said, what do you go home in? And he goes, I go in, my regular Porsche. And I said, but that's got a tiny wheel. He goes, yeah, it is a bit weird at first. She's been doing this all day long.
All right.
So what have you seen? You guys are aficionados of the sport, but I know that you give yourself just a little bit of time to kind of have a nosy, a meander around. What have you seen? What do you like? What turns you on, if you like, that isn't your own or isn't what you're working on?
There's some really great original history cars here this weekend that are just wonderful. And to put them together in one spot, I think it's been great for people to see them. And really get to experience them. And then we've got all these modern cars that are just the total opposite of what we're seeing. So it's been a real juxtaposition this weekend.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And do you like the fact, and I said this to Jeff O'Neill, do you like the fact that, yes, that we're celebrating the history of the automobile, but Jeff has made a special place for the future in terms of bringing these hypercars and bringing autonomous vehicles.
Absolutely.
I just love that, because that's a bold step for anybody putting an historic event on, because it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love it.
I love it too. I must admit, when I first arrived, I wasn't sure, but now that I've seen it, I think it's a fantastic opportunity for people who, and there are people around the pits, and you can tell who's interested in what, and there are people that came to just see those cars. Uh-oh.
Big moment.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, so they're pushing. That was the number 76 Porsche 356A of Robert Kahn, and
Good catch. Good catch, and he did.
He truly can.
Fantastic.
Look at the leather straps on the front. People forget how simple things were back then.
Yep. And the beautiful paint scheme that accentuates the speed, and it's wonderful.
See, that just shows, you see, no engine in the front. They wouldn't wear out from heat.
This is true. What lap are we on here? Let's see.
I think there's a couple more to go.
Good.
But Jack, that's another thing. Just explain to our audience who, you know, I keep talking about perfect 4 laps ago, perfectly prepared. But even the liveries, how do you go about that? I mean, how do you find the stickers and keeping it? I mean, you've got photographs, obviously.
Right.
But how do you make sure that you arrive with exactly what they had, or know what they had?
Right.
Where they got it.
And you said it. And old photos, some magazine articles, things like that. If you can come up with old programs with that, that helps. In my guy, Scott's car, it's pretty much original paint. And so the livery on that is as it was. So it's got its little bumps and bruises and things. And Scott was able to find a sign painter, and he did a beautiful job replicating some things on the car, some signage, hand-painted like it was done, no stickers in the day. So that's a really fun part of putting a car back the way it was.
And literally, it's a year-round project, isn't it? Or
absolutely.
Every year.
Yeah, every year. You bet.
I love it.
There's a little bug eye.
Yes.
I think. Yeah, beautiful.
A little Austin-Healey Sprite, little bug eye, as you say. Peter Smith at the wheel, that's a 1958.
Yeah. So we've got from 1 liter, that's a little under 1 liter, to 1 liter to 3 to 5 liter almost in the Corvette. So quite a disparity in this group.
And that's a pretty 356, that red convertible D.
Sure is. Yep.
Ah, James Dean, where are you now? We've got some 356s for you to drive again.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Talk about a car with a following and a passion, a Porsche, and 356 for sure.
But, you know, I've been talking about this yesterday. It just amazes me how that shape, that body shape, I mean, you can see the beginnings of the 911 in there, can't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then when they took the 911 and made that Speedster replica in the 80s, that was beautifully received, and they've done it again with a late car, so very pretty.
We've got Jack Perkins here enjoying Group 4. What else have you got on today? Have you got to keep working?
That's it for me. Yeah, we'll be done here in a little bit, and I think I'm going to go out and enjoy some of these cars and look at them.
I don't blame you for 1 minute, sir. That's the only part that I don't like about this is I get to have to stay here.
Right.
I get to look at them, and I get to enjoy people like yourself coming in here.
Fantastic.
I've got Zach Brown coming in next, and I'm really looking forward to talking to him.
Absolutely.
Because you know, he has a day job, as we all know.
Yep.
But his passion is as deep as anybody's here for racing, and he has contributed gleefully.
Absolutely.
And intends to do the same next year. So absolutely delighted to have him on board, and all of his McLaren staff. And
he got to drive some fancy McLarens yesterday. Yeah.
Well, he has quite an interesting and eclectic collection himself. As we take a look at the number 80 going up the hill, the Alfa Romeo GTC from 64.
Yeah. And
Conrad
behind that TDF, I think, Ferrari behind that, which is a beautiful car.
We haven't seen Jeffrey. There we go. Oh, that is lovely, isn't it?
That's a big.
That's a
what
big
a sound! It is a big car. What a sound! Drum brakes.
Yep.
On that guy, 3 liter.
1959 car.
Boy,
absolutely fantastic.
Compared to a 59 Chevy, that must have been something else, huh?
Yeah, it must have blown the mind to have seen that kind of coming down.
Absolutely.
Around the streets of LA in one of those, if you saw one. But you could understand the attraction because they were so different, weren't they?
My goodness. And it's beautiful today. That MGA, that 41, that was Scott Brown's old MGA. That was a car he raced about 20 years ago. That's a good piece, too.
Michael Silverman currently wheeling it.
Yep.
It's those little stickers. It is the little tiny things that really matter that I pick up on now that I didn't really notice at first. But, you know, like that Castrol sticker, you know, that won't just be a modern Castrol sticker. It will be of the shape and of the way it was on the car at the time.
Right. And if it isn't, someone will tell you.
Somebody will take it off.
They'll point it out.
No, I did the Monaco Historics this year, and it's obviously a similar feel.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got this track which kind of just
what an event
embraces it all, and you can't get away from the history. But a lot of the guys that I noticed on our boards here were definitely part of that event. People like Patrick Dowling and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Gunnar Jeanette, people like that, race around the world in historics.
Oh.
They're so good at racing those cars and so careful with them.
Yep.
So final lap for our Group
Here
4,
we go.
Jeffrey O'Neill.
Oh.
Jeffrey, I think I heard rumor that Jeffrey was chastised somewhat for only finishing 7th in one of his cars yesterday by one of the owners, and that got him the giddy up.
I think so. I think he's fixed that. Here we go.
Oh, here we
Ferrari.
go.
In
Look
the
at that.
corkscrew.
Nicely done,
nice.
sir.
Beautiful. Where else are you going to see that?
Well,
That's
and if
right
you
here.
knew the price of that car, which basically is
And
priceless.
I think we do. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
My goodness.
He was telling me this morning, and Nick Price has given it to him to drive, and it really is one of the most expensive cars here. And look at him go up the inside again. Go on, Jeffrey. Enjoy what you're doing.
Here we go.
So Jeffrey O'Neill almost passing half the cars as he comes to the checkered flag in that absolutely splendid Ferrari to take victory.
What a beautiful piece.
So Jeffrey O'Neill, the 1963 Ferrari 250 GTO. Well, let's just say upwards of 50 million plus.
Yeah.
I don't like to talk about the prices of cars. I think it's rude.
I had to. I dropped out when they were 40 million.
That's
I couldn't.
the Brit in me, you see.
Right.
Oh, you bid on it?
I
You
don't
dropped
know.
it?
Yeah,
I went to 35.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
It's like the wife was getting a bit annoyed.
Exactly.
But I just love the fact that this is a car that you know should literally be locked up in a museum in terms of what it's worth.
Yeah,
and if Sotheby's or any of the other were to bid on it, it is just the reason being it's one of so few in the world. It's immaculate. It's so important to the Ferrari legacy. But here it is racing. And that's just very, very special.
And thanks to these guys for bringing them out. That's very special. There's a beautiful short wheelbase behind that. It's another gorgeous car.
I was asking Jeffrey O'Neill yesterday about, how hard was it at first to get some of these collectors to kind of,